The storyteller welcomes you to another nightmare. Plug in your earphones, close your eyes, and let us begin.
Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and seen something that shouldn't be there? Maybe you glanced and saw a shadow moving behind you, or a smile that wasn't yours. Or worse, maybe you looked and realized that you weren't even looking at yourself. It's a terrifying thought, right? But it's not just a thought. It happened to me, and it all started one innocent night. A sleepover in an old house that I will never forget. I never thought a simple sleepover would lead me to experience something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. It was a Saturday night, and my friends and I were at Sarah's house, this massive, old mansion. She had just moved in with her family, and the place was, well, it was perfect for a horror movie. I remember the first time I stepped inside, the creaking floorboards, the smell of aged wood, and the way the walls seemed to groan with every step we took. This wasn't just an old house. It was full of stories, of secrets. We were sitting around in the living room, chatting and playing games. But then, Sarah dropped a bombshell. Her parents were out of town for the weekend, and they'd left the house entirely to us. No rules, just us. And this place, it was huge. A mansion with multiple floors, secret rooms, and if you ask Sarah, one place we should never go. The basement, she said, her voice lowering. My parents warned me not to go down there. It's sealed off for a reason. Of course, that was all it took. The basement. Naturally, we all wanted to go down. So, after a bit convincing, Sarah finally agreed to show us the basement, though she seemed a little nervous, almost too nervous. And that's when things took a darker turn. We made our way down the narrow stairs, the heavy air growing colder the further we descended. The basement was like something out of a nightmare, dark, musty, filled with cobwebs and boxes stacked to ceiling. It felt abandoned, forgotten, like it had been waiting for us. But what really caught our attention was in the far corner of the room, a huge antique mirror. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Its frame was ornate, with twisting vines and carvings that looked ancient. But what made it even more unsettling was the fact that the glass was cracked in several places, and the reflection of the dim light made it look like the mirror was alive. We all crowded around the mirror. We couldn't help ourselves. It was beautiful in a way, but as we stared into it, something started to feel off. I noticed it first. My reflection, it was wrong. My face was distorted, blurred like someone had smeared the glass. It was as if the mirror couldn't decide what I looked like. I nudged Sarah, and she looked, her eyes widening in confusion. My reflection, she whispered. It's smiling. I turned to her, stunned. What do you mean? You're not smiling. But Sarah was frozen, staring into the mirror, her reflection grinning back at her, wide and unnatural. That's when it happened. The mirror fogged up, like someone had exhaled onto the glass. But no one had moved. No one had even breathed that heavily. And it wasn't cold enough for condensation to form. Then one of us, Julie, the braver one, reached out. She just had to touch it. Her fingers grazed the glass, and sudden loud bang as if something heavy hit the ground, followed by screams. A loud, ear-splitting bang echoed through the basement. So loud, I thought my ears were going to burst. The entire room seemed to shake. And then, the mirror shattered into thousands of pieces, scattering across the floor like sharp teeth. We all screamed. We rushed upstairs, hearts pounding. the broken mirror still echoing in our minds. We were shaken, but we laughed it off. I mean, mirrors break, right? It was probably some weird draft or something. But deep down, we all knew we were lying to ourselves. That night, we tried to sleep, but none of us could. The house felt different, heavy, like something had followed us upstairs. I kept hearing noises, soft footsteps, faint whispers. But when I checked, there was nothing except the mirror. I kept thinking about it. That strange fog, the smile that wasn't hers, the distorted faces. It kept playing in my head. And then I saw it. Around 3 a.m., I finally got up to go to the bathroom. I passed by the hallway mirror, the one we hadn't touched, and I saw something, a figure in the corner of my eye. It was standing in the shadows, watching me. It was tall, thin, and I swear, it was wearing the same expression as Sarah's reflection from the basement. That unnatural grin. I froze. My heart stopped. I turned around quickly, but there was nothing there, just the empty hallway. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I couldn't. And I didn't sleep a wink after that. The next morning, we were all pale. No one spoke about what happened, but we all felt it. Something was wrong. When we finally left, we gathered our things and walked out, but as we passed by the mirror that shattered, the shards were gone. Every single piece. There was no glass left on the floor. Nothing. Just the empty corner of the basement, as if the mirror had never been there. We never talked about what we saw again. We never went back. But every now and then, when I pass a mirror, whether it's a hallway mirror, a bathroom mirror, I catch myself wondering, what if the reflection isn't really me? What if it's something else watching, waiting for the right moment? And sometimes when I look too long, I swear I can see it smiling. So the question is, what do you see when you look into a mirror? Before we move on to the next story, if you like true scary stories, please subscribe to Storyteller and click the bell icon for more creepy tales every week. What would you do if you woke up in the middle of the night and felt someone else in a room with you? Not someone you knew, but something you couldn't see. I'll never forget the first night in that house. It started like any normal sleepover, but by the end of that weekend, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd never truly left. We were a group of 5, all friends for years, staying in an old house we'd rented for a weekend getaway. The house was beautiful, too beautiful. It was one of those old, grand houses with creaky floorboards and thick, dusty air. The kind that makes you feel like you're walking through someone's forgotten past. I'll admit, I was excited at first. The house had character, charm, even, but there was something about it. Something just off. I could never quite place it. We arrived late Friday evening, and by the time we were unpacking, the house felt too quiet, almost too quiet. And the air, it felt thick, heavy, but we brushed it off. It's an old house, after all. We decided to play a few games, have some fun. But then things started happening. Little things at first. Strange sounds coming from the hallway. A chair scraping across the floor when no one was near it. The air getting even thicker, colder. But we just laughed it off, assuming it was a house settling. But there was one person in the group, Emma, who wasn't laughing. Emma was different. Sensitive, I guess you could say. She was always the first to feel when something was wrong. And that night, she felt it. She swore she wasn't alone in the room. At first, we all laughed. I mean, how could we take her seriously? It was just a house, right? But then She said something that sent a chill down my spine. I can feel it, she said, her voice trembling. There's someone in here. I swear I can feel them watching me. The others brushed it off. You're just tired, Emma. It's nothing, we said, trying to comfort her. But she wasn't convinced. She said she could feel a presence, something that was watching us, something we couldn't see. I thought it was just her imagination, a product of too many ghost stories and late nights. But deep down, I wasn't so sure anymore. Something was wrong. That night, we all tried to sleep, but none of us could. Around 2 a.m., the noises started. Faint footsteps. It was barely audible at first, like someone was walking softly down the hallway, but there was no one there. I remember hearing the soft creak of a door opening and closing, over and over again. My heart raced. I wasn't the only one who heard it. Emma sat up in her bed, eyes wide, whispering, "Did you hear that?" We all sat there in silence, trying to convince ourselves it was just the house settling. But the footsteps, they weren't random. They were pacing, moving from room to room, as if something was walking around us, just out of sight. We had to check. I remember standing in the dark hallway, the house feeling alive. Every shadow seemed to stretch. Every creak felt like it was coming from somewhere behind us. We approached the room where the noises had been coming from. It was an old guest room, one that was next to ours. The door was slightly ajar. We pushed it open slowly. The room was empty, but things had moved. The pillow on the bed was shifted, as if someone had laid their head there, but no one had. The blanket was pulled halfway off the bed, and one of the chairs was turned around, facing the wall. Who had been in there? We were all scared, too scared to speak. But none of us wanted to say it out loud. Was it just us? Or was something else here with us? We hurried back to our room, thinking we were just overreacting. But when we returned, things weren't right. The door, which had been firmly closed before we left, was now cracked open, and inside, the bed was different. The blankets had shifted again. The pillows weren't in their usual places. One of the chairs from the table was now sitting in the middle of the room, facing the corner, almost as if someone had been sitting there. My heart was pounding in my chest. I could barely breathe. We tried to sleep, but no one could. The whispers continued. The footsteps continued. It felt like the house was alive, watching us. None of us dared go back to the room again. But as the night dragged on, I saw something that would stay with me forever. Emma, she was staring at the wall. But her eyes, they weren't just staring. They were wide, filled with pure terror. And then she whispered, "It's looking at me." I couldn't understand what she meant. Then out of nowhere, there was a loud thud from downstairs, like something had fallen. None of us dared move. We were paralyzed with fear. When morning came, we were all exhausted, shaken, and scared out of our minds. We decided to leave, just pack up and get out. But there was one thing that none of us could explain. One of our friends, Kate, hadn't shown up the whole night. She was supposed to be with us, but she'd gone missing. We didn't even realize until the next morning. Kate was gone. No sign of her. No trace of where she had gone. We searched the house, and then we found her. We found Kate in the attic, her eyes wide open, staring into nothingness. Her expression was blank, as though she had seen something she could never forget. She couldn't remember how she got there. None of us could explain it. We all left that house, terrified, unsure of what had happened. But there was one thing we all agreed on. There was something in that house. Something we couldn't see, but felt. Maybe some things are better left unexplained. But the question remains, what if it was never really gone?